welcome to my channel. I'm Ruby and this is Ruby Says So. I'm brand new at this. I've never had a channel before. I've also never edited videos before. So hopefully by the time you watch this, I would have figured out some basic editing. I just wanted to create a channel because I really love sewing and I wanted to share that with people. I've been sewing for a little while now, probably since about 2014. I still consider myself a beginner because there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning as I go. There are a few things that I'm more intermediate in, so I'm hoping that I can share that with you. So yeah, this is just what it's all about, is just sharing the sewing and hopefully grabbing some followers who enjoy my content and we can learn together. So I thought I would make my first episode a basic getting started and a bit of an introduction to myself as well. So today I just wanted to go over just a few essential equipment items, and then you can go and collect those, whenever you want to, and you can collect them pretty much anywhere. So to introduce myself, my name is Ruby, and in my professional life I'm a registered nurse. So for me, sewing is a real place where I can come home and relax. It's really important to me to have somewhere where I can just zone out and not think about work. And I really enjoy what I do, both professionally and in my sewing. So, it's really important to me to have access to both of those things. And I have a bit of a work-life balance going at the moment, which is really great for me. And so I thought that I would share this with you and hopefully get you started on that road as well. So for what you need to get started, I've got some equipment here. So let's start with scissors. I have two pairs. So I've got my fabric scissors and then I have my paper scissors. You do need two pairs because you need to keep your fabric scissors for fabric and your paper scissors for paper. When you cut paper can dull the blade of the scissors. So you will find that your fabric scissors won't cut through fabric as cleanly as you want them to. Your scissors are never going to be as sharp as when you first took them out of the packet. So it's really important to try and maintain that sharpness as you go. You can have your scissors sharpened. There are places that do that. I think Mr. Minute does it. And maybe Bunnings, if you've got a Bunnings nearby or any hardware store, they might do that as well. So now my fabric scissors, you don't need to spend a lot of money to get started. This brand I think it says Lavingo. I actually bought these on Amazon and they were $24. And I think I've had this particular pair for about 2 years and I've never had them sharpened. And I still think that they go through fabric as well as I want them to. But I've really worked hard to make sure that I have that separation between fabric and paper scissors. So when you're looking for scissors, don't go out to Spotlight spending $70 or more on fabric scissors when you first get started. That's something you can do in the future when you realize, yes, I really love doing this and I really want to start upgrading my stuff. I've got my paper scissors, which started off as my cheapo fabric scissors, and I can't remember how much these were. I think I got them from Spotlight as well, $10, $20. I don't actually remember. I've noticed the difference though since I've used these on paper. They don't go through fabric, so just that's something to bear in mind. So yeah, there's your scissors. So next thing I'll talk about is pins. Now I've got a pin cushion. Get yourself a pin cushion. There's lots of different types, so I've got quite a few. I've got my little pair. I've got my little teapot. I actually made this last week. The pattern was Rick Rack, and you can buy the patterns for this on Etsy, and I think if you go to her Facebook page, so Rick Rack, if you want the pattern for that. Yeah. I've also got pin cushions that go on my wrist so that I can just take things out of it when I need to, or you can even just use it if you want a little jar. It's up to you. So this is your space. You have what is easy and convenient for you, what you're comfortable with. So with my pins, so I've got two sorts that I particularly use. I've got the plain, so you can see that, just the plain metal pins without a head on them. They're just plain pins. I like those because they don't have the head on it, so it's a lot easier to sew. Now, we really should be taking our pins out of our fabric as we sew, because it will protect your machine and protect your needles and all of that sort of stuff. But you are going to come across times where you're trying to sew really slippery fabrics and things like that, and you really want them to stay in place. So these are great pins for that, but we're going to talk about that at a later date. So don't just go sewing over your pins willy-nilly. If you have to sew over them, very, very slowly, careful with what you do. The next pin I'm going to show you is the pin with a head on it. Now this is a glass head pin. The reason we use glass head is because when we're ironing and pressing our material, if you have plastic head pins, the plastic will melt. So you can purchase plastic pins if that's what you want to purchase. Just bear in mind you can't iron over those. Go for the glass head, because I find that they last longer, and then I don't have to worry about ironing and things like that, because if you do iron over them and they melt onto your fabric, you will not get it off your fabric, and you could potentially ruin the project that you're doing. So just bear that in mind. So the two basic pins, this is what I use. Get whatever's comfortable for you. You can start with the glass head, you can start with the plain, you can get both. Entirely up to you. Whatever's in your price range. Yeah. Next, I'm going to talk about, since we started on pins, I'm going to talk about machine needles. So again, assuming that you've got your machine. Now, I've got two packs here, two different brands, and they're both what we call a universal needle, which means that they should go through all fabrics. There are lots of different types of needles on the market. So you've got, ball head pins, you've got jeans needles, which are thicker, you've got jersey knit needles, which go through your sort of your t-shirt. So this is jersey, like t-shirt fabric. So depending on what you're doing, you've got needles for that. Because you're a beginner, I'm going to assume that we're going to be using basic cotton, normal weight cotton that you get in Spotlight and things like that. These will be fine for that. When we start doing other projects in the future where we might do thicker fabrics and things, then we can talk about different needles that you may need for that project at the time. But these are universal. Now, I've got Schmetz, which is a really good brand. And then I've got this one. Now, I don't know if it's Class or Class A. Either way, I'm not sure, but either way, I got them both from Spotlight. Now, you're going to hear me mention Spotlight a lot. I'm not affiliated with Spotlight at all. It's just the closest thing I have to my house. I have one there and I can access it and go there. But you can buy these from Lincraft. You can go online. Most sewing places, Hobby Sew and all those sorts of places will have needles as well. So whatever you've got close to your home, I think you can even get them on Amazon or something like that as well. So this one is just, see the size, I don't know if you can see that size, it's a 70. And then the Schmetz one, I've got 3 sizes there. I've got a 70, 80 and a 90. If you're just using cotton fabric, say what you'd make a little pouch out of or something like that, you would only really need to use a 70. That's pretty standard. The higher up you go, the bigger the needle. So if I was going through quite a few layers, like I make some bags. So once I've done my outer, inner, stabilizer, plus there's a seam, plus there might be a handle, I could go through probably 7 or 8 layers of fabric. So I would use a 90 because then I get a cleaner stitch and you don't see anything like skipping stitches and things like that. So skipping stitches is where your needle goes into the fabric, comes back out, goes to the next spot, goes in, but you can see it actually didn't leave that stitch, that first stitch. So that's a skipped stitch, and you don't want that because then your project won't be as secure. It may fall apart. it just doesn't look as neat and tidy either. So if you find that you're having problems with what you're doing, which is your skipping stitches and things like that, then it's probably your needle. But then also it could be your bobbin, which is what we're going to talk about next. So I just mentioned bobbins. So you need your top thread, and then you need a bobbin. The bobbin is what feeds your bottom thread. So when you're doing a project, you've got your top thread that you can see, and then you've got your bottom thread. So that comes from the bobbin that sits inside your machine. When you buy bobbins, all machines are different. So your older style machines will have metal bobbins. Some new machines might, but you'd have to have a look. But most new machines have plastic. So you need to buy the bobbin that fits your machine appropriately. I know when you go to Spotlight, and I've looked at the shelf, and there's all these different packets of different plastic bobbins, and I think, oh, they all look the same. Sometimes they're not. I've made the mistake of bringing home a plastic bobbin thinking, oh, that will work. But then I find that once I've put it in the machine, I can hear it moving around. I can see that my stitches aren't as tight and as clean as they should be. So when you buy bobbins, try and buy the ones appropriate for your machines. This is from a packet of Brother bobbins, because my machines are mostly Brothers. I've got a few machines, but the ones I use are Brother, so I stick with that. And you can buy these at Spotlight. I think you can buy them anywhere. You can even get them wherever you have your machine serviced, if you're going to start servicing your machine, which you should do, and we'll talk about that another day as well. So grab yourself bobbins that fit your machine. Don't put metal in a machine if it doesn't come with it, because you will damage the inside of your machine, and you'll break needles, and all sorts of things will happen, and then you'll be having your machine serviced and repaired more often, which is expensive. So do that. Plastic bobbin, and that'll sort you out. So top thread, this one is birch, and there are different ones that you can buy, but I just happen to have birch with me. Now, some cottons are better than others. I've used birch for some time, and I do find that, yes, it's okay, it does work, but I find that when I'm going through quite a few layers, I find that, I don't know whether it kind of frays, like, I don't know whether it just frays the thread ever so slightly. You can't really see it, but you can notice it in the sewing. But that's not to say don't buy birch. You'll just have to see what you're doing, what your project is, and what works. But there, like I said, there are other ones on the market. So if you went to Spotlight, you'd see a whole bunch of birch. You'd see a whole wall of Gutermann. Gutermann is really, really good, but it's also more expensive. So you do get what you pay for. If you're just starting out and you're just doing little projects like we are, where we're going to do a zippered pouch and probably a tote bag, the birch will get you through. So don't go spending lots and lots of money on thread. Just get the ones that you want at the time. But Gutermann's great because it has more variety. So they do different types of thread, and the color range is huge. So if you are doing a special project and you really want to get that exact match, I would go with the Gutermann, because you do have more to choose from. But like I said, just getting you started, don't go spending hundreds of dollars on thread. Just get what you can afford in the colors that you like, and that'll get you started. So that's why I started with birch, and I do use it often as well. So next we're going to talk about chalk. So I bought this little packet of chalk from, I think it might have been Amazon or something. It's Taylor's chalk. So you need Taylor's chalk. It's nice and thin, so when I do draw on my fabric, I get a nice thin line. I get a clean line. And it comes in a range of colors, so you can choose the color most appropriate for the fabric that you're using. And the reason we use chalk is because it generally rubs off the fabric and doesn't leave a mark. I try not to iron over the top of any markings, because when you iron over the top of markings, you can make them more permanent, and sometimes they do stay on there. So just be really careful with what you're doing. Get yourself some Taylor's chalk. You can buy it in packets like this. You can get big chunks of it. Spotlight have packets of it as well. in smaller different packs, but it's definitely worth getting some of that. Now, you don't have to have Taylor's chalk like this. One of the things that I also use is I use a chalk pencil. I got it from an art store. You can buy chalk pencils in Spotlight, but I don't think the quality is as good. I find these ones much better. They're more expensive, and like I said, you get what you pay for. But you don't have to go buying every colour. I've got a couple of different ones. I've got a grey and a white and a couple of light pastel colours. And I just find, depending on what I'm doing, it's just easier to use than the chalk. Again, like I said, you're just getting started, so don't go spending hundreds of dollars on pencils either. If you wanted to buy one, that's fine. If you want to stick with the chalk, that's fine. But I also use lead pencils too. So again, depending on what I'm marking out, I use a lead pencil. Lead is harder to get off your fabric though. Once lead goes on, that's pretty much it. So just be mindful of what you're marking. Hello, we've got a visitor. Hello, baby. Do you want to come and say hello? Oh, dear little baby. This is Jazzy. He's my supervisor, my sewing supervisor. He likes to come in every day and see what I'm doing. Don't you, baby? So pop up there. So that's another essential item for your sewing room, is a pet. Mine's a cat. So he'll walk himself around, get in the way, stare out the window, look at the neighbours, all of the really important jobs that I can't get to. Okay, so that was pencils. Let's move on. Two of my essentials, snips. Now you can use scissors to snip thread, but I find that having pairs of these, I've got so many of these. These actually come in a packet. So if you went to Spotlight, you can get a packet. It has a pair of snips. It has an unpicker, which we'll talk about next, a measuring tape, a little ruler. It's a really good starter kit as well. So get one of them if you can. But you can also buy these individually. And I just find that it's much easier if you're snipping those threads. Some projects will ask you to snip around curves in fabric as well. And I just find having these snips, it's a lot easier to control when you're getting close up to something you need to snip very finely. You can snip with scissors, but as you can see, trying to manage big scissors is going to be much more difficult than these little snips. So absolutely get yourself a pair of these. Next up, my trusty unpicker. This is the most important thing you're going to need. You can't sew without an unpicker because you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. So one of the things I like to do while I'm sewing is watch shows. And at the moment, to give you an example, I'm watching, I think it's called Agatha All Along. It's on Disney. Oh, it's so good. Check it out. Anyway, I was sewing, watching Agatha, and I sewed my thing back to front. So obviously when you open it, it's wrong. I had to basically just go and make myself a cup of tea, get my trusty friend out, and sat there and I had to unpick all my threads. So you do need an unpicker for that. Invest in an unpicker. And like I said, one comes in a packet with your snips. So go and do that. What shows do you watch when you sew? If you're already sewing, if you like to watch shows or listen to podcasts or listen to music, put it in the comments below and let's all see what we do while we're doing our projects. Now, next up we've got our machine feet. Okay, you don't need to go and get these. They will come with your machine. So you've got the foot that comes already attached. That's your standard foot. There are other feet available. So when you're getting into other projects, maybe if you want to do quilting and things like that, and you're going through thicker fabrics and you need different feet to help you with that. There's walking feet, there's all sorts of feet. There are feet that help you do hems and stuff like that as well. Don't go buying expensive feet at the moment. Have a look at what your machine comes with. It will come with your basic foot. This is all we need to get us started. The next one, which should come with your machine, but for some reason doesn't come with all machines, is your zipper foot. Let me try and hold this better. So this is what you need when you're doing a zipper. And the reason it's shaped like this is because when it sews along your fabric, it gets nice and close to the actual zipper itself, so the zipper teeth. So you get that nice, really fine stitch along there, and it just looks really nice, and it holds it in place as well. If you can do a zip with your normal foot, but because it's so wide, you run the risk of potentially missing the edge of the zip as well. So you could end up with a project where the zipper's not attached properly. Don't want to forget, now you need yourself some rulers as well. So I've just got normal plastic rulers for getting started. There are so many rulers. If you went to Spotlight, you will see in the quilting section, and there's a section specifically for rulers and mats and things like that. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on them. So what I mean by different rulers, for example, I've got my patchwork ruler as well. So if you can see how it's got grids on it, and so these are inch squares, and they come in all different sizes. So I use those for different projects, but don't go spending hundreds of dollars on rulers. To get you started, get yourself whatever ruler you've got in your house will do. But if you don't have one, I got myself this cheapo 30 centimeter ruler from $2 shop. This one is an 18 centimeter. I really like it. 18 centimeters. So it's really handy when I'm doing small projects. I don't even remember where I got this. I think it came in a packet with something else. So there you go. But I do have other rulers. I've got 60 centimeter rulers. I've got a meter long ruler as well. So if I'm doing really big projects and I want a nice clean line, I use those rulers. But to get you started today, don't go spending lots of money. Just get cheapo, $2 shop, Woolworths, whatever. Rummage through the kids' school bag, get a ruler out if they've got more than one, that sort of thing. Yeah. Now, lastly, fabric. This is just basic cotton fabric, okay? So if you're going to go down to Spotlight, just look for fabric that you really like the look of. And you just want cotton. It'll either be cotton, it'll be cotton poplin, stuff like that. It might even say quilting fabric, and it's just cotton, you know, fabric. So this one here, this is a fat quarter. Now, a fat quarter is a quarter of a yard, and they come already pre-cut in packets. So the reason I got this one was just because, I mean, I really like cats. It's nice, isn't it? So I got this one, but for getting started, don't go spending lots of money on fabric. Don't go getting meters and meters of fabric when you don't even know if you're even going to like sewing yet. That's something you can do later. So if you only want to make a small zippered pouch to get yourself started, go and get 2 pieces or 2 fat quarters. Now, fat quarters, it is a more expensive way to purchase fabric because you are paying for the fact that it's cut and packaged individually. So have a look. If you go to Spotlight, you might see that they've got 10 fat quarters for a certain amount of money or something like that. If they've got a special on, then, and you're happy with the cost, then go ahead and buy that. Otherwise, a meter of fabric, just of cotton, can be anywhere between $17, $23, $25 for a meter. You don't have to buy the whole meter. You can buy half a meter, quarter of a meter, however many centimeters of it, but you'll get that strip off the bolt because it comes on a large bolt. So you will, if you got 20 centimeters, you get 20 centimeter strip, right? So, but if that's all you need for your project, then that's all you need to pay for. You don't have to feel like you have to buy meters, okay? So I find that at my local Spotlight, they know me there now, but I find them really helpful anyway, because you've got people who work there who've been crafting and sewing for a really long time as well. So if you're just getting started and you don't know what you're doing and you're a bit confused, just go and find someone and say, look, I just want to make this. what's the best thing to start with, and they can show you a few things as well. And they'll even tell you you don't have to buy the whole meter. You know, they just obviously put the prices as per meter because that's what people generally purchase. So grab yourself 2 fat quarters if you want, if that's more cost effective. Otherwise, if you think I really want a meter of something, get the meter. It's up to you. Okay, so that'll get you started. Okay, so that's all our equipment. That's everything we need to get started today. So our next project, or our starting project, is going to be a zippered pouch. What I want you to grab, if you want to do it with me, is grab some fabric that you like. You want an outer fabric, which will be your main fabric that everybody sees, and then get a lining fabric. Again, a lining fabric is also just cotton. It's not a special fabric that's specifically lining. You can buy fabric in a plain color. You can buy a patterned fabric. Just get what you want to put together. And then you want to buy a zip. Now I've got zips. I didn't get one out. Hello, Mr. Man, you're back again. Hello, supervisor. Now I've got my big basket. So buy yourself a zip. That's a 7-inch zip. Okay, I would probably buy an 8-inch zip actually. I don't know if I've got one to show you. But it's just a nylon dress zip. That's all you need. And we're going to put that in. So you need your outer fabric, your inner fabric, and a nylon dress zip. They come in many different colors. Just get one that matches what you're doing. And this is a birch one. I got them from Spotlight. You can get zips from anywhere. So if you're in Big W or whatever, if that's what's more convenient for you, grab one. They may not have the same color range, but just go and have a look. I think you can also buy them online as well. So if that's what's handy for you and cost effective, then go ahead and do that. So that'll get you started with our project. Okay, so that's our getting started. Thank you for coming along and watching my video. I really hope that it's been informative and it's sort of just got you really keen to get started. I'm excited to get started with you. So I'm going to get ready for our project and I'll see you in the next video.